One of the sadder, more insidious symptoms of not having been treated well in childhood is a remarkable tolerance indeed. Even an appetite for not being treated entirely nicely by partners in adulthood. It's not a conscious choice, but rather a deeply ingrained pattern. A form of emotional muscle memory. As graduates of rocky pasts, we carry an invisible curriculum vitae listing our qualifications, a PhD in enduring emotional neglect, a master's degree in self-blame, and a minor in minimizing our own pain. With these credentials, we are at an exceptionally high risk of ending up recklessly passive around partners who don't appear to have much, if any, interest in our true needs or aspirations. Where others, who grew up with a baseline of security and respect, would see a field of red flags and hear blaring warning sirens, we simply sense normality. The unsettling quiet of emotional distance feels familiar. Like the wallpaper of our childhood home. The chaos of an unpredictable mood swing doesn't feel like a storm to be escaped, but rather a climate we've already learned to survive in. So, where others would be plotting an escape, updating their resumes, and calling a friend for a place to stay, we settle in for the long term. Where others would despair of intransigence, chronic criticism, or outright meanness, we see a project. We see every chance of being able to change a partner, to finally fix them with our endless patience and unconditional love. So long as we just keep quiet, try harder, and hope. This hope can be a powerful, blinding force. It can take an awfully long time, years, sometimes decades, until we are in any position to step back and realize that, all told, the situation does appear a little strange and, perhaps, somewhat irrevocable. It can take an eternity to recognize that it may not be entirely to our advantage to be told, again and again, that we are mad for wanting greater gentleness, or that we are being demanding for seeking a deeper, more consistent connection. We may start to believe them when they call us crazy for wondering why a partner spends so much time on their phone, emotionally checked out, or out drunk with friends while we sit at home waiting. This slow, steady drip of gaslighting erodes our very sense of reality, making us question not their behavior, but our own sanity. Maybe I am too sensitive, we tell ourselves. Maybe I expect too much. We could be compared to a giant fish. A tuna perhaps, who's had its fins methodically cut off since it was young and has lost any powers of navigation. It doesn't even remember what it felt like to steer its own body. Now, it just bobs helplessly on the current dictated by a partner's moods, their schedule, their fleeting moments of affection. It floats along, exhausted, hoping against hope that this powerful current will eventually, miraculously, take it somewhere nice. It is utterly unable to exert any influence on its own course, having forgotten that it was ever meant to have one. The famous expression runs, when people show you who they are, believe them. It sounds so simple, so straightforward. But it's profoundly hard to be clear-eyed about who is good and bad when you happen to grow up with a heavy, life or death disincentive to perceive certain awkward truths about your own parents. Because when you were 5 years old, you were physically and emotionally trapped in a house with them. Love, safety, and food weren't readily available from anyone else. To see your caregivers as flawed, neglectful, or unkind was to acknowledge that you were fundamentally unsafe. A child's mind cannot bear this terror. So, it performs a brilliant, tragic act of psychological self-preservation, it twists reality. It concludes, my caregivers must be good. So if I feel bad, the problem must be me. Our entire perceptual mechanism may have been permanently warped as a result. Like an animal that can't perceive certain frequencies of light. Our emotional eyes may have grown up with blind spots, unable to see difficult traits for what they are. This distorted lens follows us into adulthood. Coldness and emotional unavailability are no longer seen as a deficit, but are reframed as honorable absorption in more important tasks, or a sign of strength and independence. Sarcasm isn't seen as veiled hostility. It's read as wit, or just a dark sense of humor. Being belittled, being told what to do and how to feel, doesn't register as control. It feels, in a twisted way, like care and attention. Because of this, we're always more likely to think of ourselves as bad for failing to elicit kindness from a fundamentally lovely person, rather than to conceive that we might have simply fallen in with a jerk. We build a case for their goodness based on a highlight reel of their best moments that one time they were supportive. That lovely vacation from 3 years ago. We cling to these scraps as evidence, ignoring the mountain of daily data that points to a different conclusion. We will continue to adore and admire this idealized version of them, despite the constant, nagging signs of trouble. Because the alternative, admitting we chose someone who hurts us, feels like a personal failure too great to bear. But then, one day, something might begin to shift. We may be deep into our lives, well into a career, maybe even with children of our own, before we quietly decide that we might have had enough of suffering. This turning point is rarely a dramatic explosion. It's more often a quiet, internal crumbling. It's the death by 1,000 cuts. It's the exhaustion finally outweighing the hope. We may start to be curious, in a tentative, fragile way, about what real kindness and genuine presence might actually feel like. We might see it in a friend's relationship, read about it in a book, or simply have a fleeting moment of clarity in the middle of a lonely night. We may, ever so slightly, begin to entertain the thought that though our partner may be using every ounce of their considerable logic, their charm, or their anger to secure the status quo, they might, in the end, just be taking us for a very long ride. And here is the most important, most powerful truth we can ever learn: we don't have to be here. We are, astonishingly, not 5 years old anymore. This realization is the key that unlocks the cage. As a child, we were helpless. We couldn't pack a bag. We couldn't get a job. We couldn't rent our own apartment. We had no power. But now, we are adults. If we're not happy, we can run. We can walk. We can crawl if we have to. But we can move. We can make our own money, find our own shelter, and build a new family of supportive friends. We are free. This profound, terrifying, and exhilarating freedom is what being an adult should always have been about. And this is where the real story begins. The beautiful ending isn't about finding a perfect person who magically heals us. It's about finding ourselves. It's about taking that first terrifying, exhilarating step away from the familiar current and into the open, unknown water. It's about the slow, patient process of rediscovering our own fins, learning to navigate by our own internal compass, and setting a course toward a life that feels genuinely kind and true to who we are. It's about learning, Finally, to offer ourselves the unwavering gentleness we once begged for from others. This journey of becoming your own rescuer, your own safe harbor, and your own greatest love, that is the most beautiful and heroic ending of all. This journey of healing and self-discovery is at the heart of what we explore here. If these ideas resonate with you and you wish to continue learning how to navigate life with more wisdom and self-compassion, we'd be honored if you would subscribe to our channel for more content that supports your growth.